So we built what we were calling these community set of features on the platforms where businesses that are currently working together or would like to work together more could do so in a much more collaborative space on the same platform as automating their social media or a portion of their social media. And so all that came into play. And that kind of then started to lead our go-to-market strategy as well, by finding businesses or structures of businesses where they work together already, like chambers of commerce or associations, and their SMBs. So they need some help in, streamlining their marketing efforts.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Chris Dico. He's the CEO and co-founder at Targetings Inc. Chris, welcome to the show.
All right, thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Chris, why don't you start and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Ooh, it's a big one. Well, to keep things really simply, I'm in Seattle now in the Pacific Northwest, but I grew up in New York on Long Island, and I'm in the Pacific Northwest now for about coming on almost 15 years. We thought it would be 1 year, but here we are, 14 years later. And yeah, through that time, I've worked at several different companies, large, small, doing very different functions. But yeah, I've been with Targetings for almost about 3 years now.
Wow, that's fantastic. So tell me more about Targetings.
Targetings. So it's a content marketing platform, right? It's actually evolved quite a bit over the last 3 years for sure. Targeting started out, I wasn't part of the original founding group. It started out in 2014 as a platform that was able to automate a lot of the social media and messaging distribution for larger publishers, publishers that had multiple editorial teams, different time zones, different languages. And what the team realized was that they were doing a lot of manual tasks over and over again, and that much of this could be automated, saving them time, not having one person have the keys to the castle, things like that. And, it was going really well for a time being. We have, several large publishers that are still our clients: Deutsche Welle in Germany, Global Voices, RFE, Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Liberty, major brands that are using it to really streamline their distribution. And then fast forward a little bit, prior to coming to Targetings, I had spent almost 9 years with a company called Tiger Oak Media, and they're a US-based media organization that produced about 30 to 40 magazines a year, brands across the US, and bridal, lifestyle, business, meetings, and conventions. And when I left there, I had heard about Targetings just through some mutual contacts here in the Pacific Northwest. And I said, that sounds really cool. I have the publishing and the media background. These guys are doing some cool tech for it. Let me see what this is all about. And that's kind of how it started for me. And, we've since pivoted quite a bit. We're still working with several publishers, but we've pivoted the platform to be much more approachable and usable by SMBs.
Interesting. So talk to me a little bit about that shift.
So a couple of things. Part of it was technology related in the changing times. Some of it was market related. But, when you look at a business model, if you're creating something for just large scale publishers, there just simply aren't that many out there anymore, right? Because the media landscape has changed so much over the past decade. And we kind of looked at this and said, look, if we need to keep this brand, viable in this ever changing market, we need to diversify, our client base. And we really did a lot of soul searching and thought about this and said, well, why is it just publishers, right? What are we at the core? Targetings is an efficiency tool, right? It's a distribution tool. And there's a lot of smaller businesses that they're not marketing experts. They don't have, expertise in marketing distribution, even tools, or they just don't have the resources to do that because they're wearing so many hats. So we said, well, let's look at applying a simplified version of what the original platform was for SMBs, where they can now create automated social media campaigns for themselves. And most of the time using content that they already have, their testimonials from their website, their products, their people, things that are good to keep a baseline of consistent content out there. And that's kind of, that's where we are now. And, we had to do a lot of retooling on the platform to get to that point.
So it sounds like, the goal is to streamline the process. Am I hearing that right? For these small, medium-sized businesses?
Absolutely. Well, we really looked at, kind of what are the biggest pain points for SMBs, and it's not all SMBs, but just at a very broad scale, what are the pain points? And most of the time it's that I don't want to have to keep figuring out what to post or keep thinking about it. It's hard to keep finding content, especially where the sources are constantly changing. And a lot of SMBs have a lot of turnover too, right? On their small teams. So we're going, okay, we don't want to have to keep recreating the wheel. Let's have, kind of the ownership understand, like, we could just put targetings to play here, and then as people come in and out, we're not gonna lose any momentum or any steam. And that's kind of how we took the approach of what are the talking points, what are the pain points that we're solving for a lot of these small and mid-sized businesses out there. And then, through several of those conversations, other than just the automating of your social media, kind of content, we realized that a lot of small businesses, and actually this came from local publishers here, but we applied it to small businesses, with that they work with other businesses all the time, right? It takes a village, right? So then we kind of got into the saying, it takes a community. So we built what we were calling these community set of features on the platforms, where businesses that are currently working together or would like to work together more could do so in a much more collaborative space on the same platform as automating their social media or a portion of their social media. And so all that came into play, and that kind of then started to lead our go-to-market strategy as well, by finding businesses or structures of businesses where they work together already, like chambers of commerce or associations, and their SMBs. So they need some help in, streamlining their marketing efforts. So the platform really kind of checks a few boxes for them.
That's really interesting. And when you're talking about SMBs, is there a specific industry that you tend to see targetings working with a little bit more than others?
We don't see that there would be any need to really differentiate on who is the ideal client on there, because it's less about the product of the market. It's definitely more about the size of the team and what they're trying to accomplish. Okay. Now, basically it has to fall in line with if they're using social media to begin with, right? Because if you have a brand, whether it's B2B or B2C, but if you have a brand that just doesn't have any public, kind of facing persona to it, then this isn't for you, right? You need to actually be getting your brand out there and having conversations on social. So it really isn't industry specific. But also, we found that it works best with organizations that do have some content to start with. And, like I said, small businesses, a lot of the times they have Google reviews, Yelp reviews, testimonials. They want to tell people about their team. They may have videos that they created with interviews like this. That's all really good content to keep your brand out there in front of people. And don't be afraid to reuse good content, after a few months, right? You don't have to keep recreating the wheel, especially as all the AI tools have come out now. Creating content has become more efficient than ever. So it's like, use those tools, put the content in targetings, and kind of set off an automated distribution strategy that's going to keep your business kind of in front of people as you get creative, as you interact with your audience, as you think about new markets and, new ways to reach your customers.
Yeah, no, and it's so important. I think it was a Gary Vee quote that said, if you're not producing content, you're essentially dead, as a company. But those are my words, paraphrasing from him. But, walk me through, when you're talking about collaboration within these communities, walk me through what that looks like.
Sure. A good example. So we were working with a media company in the Pacific Northwest here. They own about 5 magazines, right? Locally, travel, lifestyle, business. And they had an official partnership with the local NBC affiliate here, the King 5, right? The news station. And that sort of stuff happens all the time, right? And this is just a one-to-one kind of business relationship where they're official magazine partner, they're our official news partner. So early on, I asked their editor, how does that partnership work? How do you decide what you want them to help amplify on your behalf? How do they let you know what they need help with, especially when it comes to social, because that's where they're doing a lot of these conversations. And it was clear that it was clunky. It was emails back and forth, possibly text, saying, hey, we shared this. Could you pump this out? Can you share it? Can you like it? That kind of stuff. So we looked at what targetings had as a foundation and said, what, if we just do a little bit of, kind of shifting of some of the features and the way that the platform is built, we might be able to meet this need right here. So that's how it came across. So basically, Premier Media Group, which has the magazines, invited King 5 to join their community. And and it's free, they just basically log on and activate, and they connect their business social accounts. So within that community feed, then they can each see everything that the other business is posting across Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram with no algorithms and no ads. So you never miss anything that your key partners are posting, because if you're just relying on your newsfeed, you're going to miss a lot, right? The algorithms don't work like that. And you don't want to search multiple networks. You don't want to have to go to multiple pages and go see what they're doing. So we've aggregated it all into one space.
Brilliant.
And then, on top of that, those relationships are typically usually just more than we want to see what the other partners are posting on social, and we want to share it on our channels. There's usually, maybe there's campaigns that are, in common. There's events that they're both working on. Well, in the communities, there's shared images, shared video folders, shared media libraries that can all be related to that particular reason for the partnership. And then all of those tools, that marketing toolkit for that partnership, is all just a click away from sharing across your social networks. And then, of course, you can do some automation on top of that. So we've basically removed the friction to those types of partnerships.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And talking about, what differentiates Targetings from its competition, would you say one of the ways is that building those communities for collaboration? Would you say that's one of the ways that Targetings is able to stand out?
Yeah, I think it's a unique combination of the features that are on the platform, right? There are a lot of social media tools out there that are really effective. Hootsuite, Buffer, Sprout. There are a lot of things that are out there. But for us, when we looked at it, we said most SMBs don't need to dive so deep into a lot of the features that these guys do. And they also get very expensive pretty quickly. They're also heavily manual. Yes, you can schedule things, but they don't get automatically scheduled, right? You can't just dump stuff into a folder and say every Monday, pull from this, add these, CTAs and this set of hashtags on it that you've pre-thought about. That's where Targetings comes in. And then when you layer on top of that, the community's functionality, it creates a really unique partnership, a really unique set of features that, again, for us, we think that small businesses would really benefit from, because they're trying to do so much, right, in a small space. And, partnerships matter. So, if we can find ways to help businesses partner with each other more effectively, then we're all for it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's so important too, in the world of how quickly things move, especially social media, making sure you're aligned. It sounds like, that's a huge piece.
Sure. And, one of the new market concepts that we're testing, actually, and just you mentioned it, and it kind of got my light bulb off, is it could be a franchise model, but it could be also businesses that have maybe multiple contractors, even sales teams. So social selling has been so important over the past 2 years, right? So if you are a brand that has it doesn't have to be a small sales team. It could be 15 to 40 people, that when your business has a voice, a brand, that they're putting out through their corporate pages, and you want your sales team, especially on LinkedIn, if you're in the B2B space, to basically amplify that, to utilize it, and for them to position themselves as an expert in this space, which would then build some credibility and trust with the clients that they're going after. Well, we see the targeting to be a really cool tool for that too, because the brand, as opposed to having a community amongst your other external businesses, your community could be your sales team and your sales organization. So right in there, here's all of our sales and marketing materials. And with there, corporate's going to put out social messaging, and then those posts can actually show up in your sales team's inbox, which then they can just click share. It'll open up the Targetings platform, and they can just share as is, or they can edit the messaging. But it allows them to not have to think about, how do I have a consistent voice as myself, as the salesperson, as the rep for this business? Let the company that has the larger marketing budgets, that's putting an effort into creating this content, right? WriteForMe, you guys create content, right, that then can be used in many ways. Now just think about, if you guys are creating all this great content that the headquarters puts out, the sales team gets access to it and then can amplify and share on their own. They don't have to think about, what am I going to talk about this week? What am I going to talk about next week? Corporate has figured some of that stuff out, right? Well, let's remove the friction to having the sales team be able to utilize it in a more efficient way. So it's the same set of features, same set of functions, but just a different application of why it's useful.
Yeah. And I think it's important, from like you said, kind of a headquarters position, you're paying, great people to create this content. Why not allow them to do what they do best and help the sales team, continue to spread that word, like you said, build trust, build credibility, and have even more of a presence online in a personal sense, as well as the company as well.
Absolutely. And not that it's, should have anything about, worrying about turnover, but if I'm in the shoes of that sales team, right? If you're in biz dev and you are not necessarily new in your career, but you are looking to position yourself, if you have some experience here, in a lot of the time specific niches. And what that means is being a representative of the company that you're working for, but also it's your personal brand. And if this is something that is important to your career, and even if it's with the current company or the next one, this will help them brand themselves as an expert in this space and elevate, their own exposure out there, to future employers. So again, there's a lot of uses for it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What would you say the most significant misconception in the industry would be right now?
I would think that cost. I think a lot of the times, because if there's most small businesses that haven't really looked into a lot of these tools, they might have like a free trial on Hootsuite or Buffer for a little bit, but then when you start looking at analytics and you start wanting to tap into more features and functions, it can get significant, really fast, hundreds a month. And I think because the major players have such market share and exposure there, that the misconception is that almost all these tools are going to be expensive. Also, just the way that tech seems to go, it's very odd. You have a lot of, in the B2B space, the same set of tools could be 10 times the cost. In the the B2C space, they do the same things a lot of the times, but it's just the market that they're going after and the price and sensitivities of that. So I think price is a common misconception, and I do think that people have to really dive in and check it out and do trials and have somebody try to even themselves try to understand, what am I trying to accomplish by maybe using a tool, or even going down this path of learning what's out there first, because a tool is not going to solve a bunch of problems for you if you don't really have a grasp and you don't have to have everything finalized, but just a clear goal of what you're hoping to accomplish, and be okay with changing that strategy and the execution along the way. I guess that kind of leads me to the second one, is so it's cost, and then also the misconception that you have to have everything figured out before maybe you're going after and trying to build this strategy. And that's hard to do, because a lot of people that are in these positions are perfectionists. They want everything to be really buttoned up and be perfect for the brand before anything sees the light of day. And, I'm guilty of it myself. And you kind of have to take a step back and say, what, everything doesn't need to be perfect. We have to see what's going to hit and be okay with changing and shifting and, recognizing mistakes and making some changes and seeing what comes next. So it's kind of just get out there and do it, Yeah.
Just take a chance.
Just take a chance.
Trust the teams, trust, the people that, obviously what you're doing, talking about collaboration. I think that's fantastic. So if people wanted to go to learn more about targetings, where would they go?
Targetings.com. So you can head to the website. There's a lot going on the website, but it does show kind of what industries we help serve. And at the end of the day, we're a small business, right? So we are customizing everything for our clients and our prospects. And the tool targetings platform is very powerful. And I think it can be a little overwhelming when people think about automation, right? It hasn't been, it's starting to get adopted, but it started at larger companies first. And I think that at the SMB world, a lot of times there's some hesitation about trying to dive in. Is there a long learning curve? How do I figure these things out? And it's just check it out a little bit, and then schedule a demo, schedule a call with somebody, on our team to say, what are you trying to accomplish? And we can explain how the platform can do this for you very simply, right? Because if it's not simple the way that we see things today, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Love the idea of leading with value too, talking about the demo, kind of walking through the capabilities. I think that's, a great way to start off the relationship. Yeah. So Chris, is there anything, as we start to wrap up this conversation, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with, either about targetings, about the industry, about growth in general?
That's a good question. Growth is scary. It feels like everything is scary now, right? Growth is scary. Change is scary. Getting to perfection is scary. Making mistakes is scary, right? I don't know. I think it's just don't overthink things. And and have the conversations, right? Almost anybody is open to having a conversation, right? Unless they're completely narcissistic about themselves and their time is so valuable, right? I think people like talking. If it's a space that they're in, anybody, right? You probably love having these conversations about content, about growth, about markets. And, it's just, if you like the space, go have those conversations. I think people will find out that most people are definitely open to it. Yeah. And, don't be scared by AI. That's the other one. Especially for small teams, we use it constantly, and it's not to replace things that you can't do on your own. It's just to help with the timing, right? And scale your production, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's got to be driving it, right? So you can use a lot of content creation, tools out there to just do things faster than you would have, but it's got to be your voice. It has to be your message, and you have to ultimately understand your customers. What's the value that they're seeking that you can provide to them? What are their pain points? And just put the guardrails on it, right? Just kind of point it in that direction rather than content creation for content creation's sake, right? Use it to enhance your presence out there. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. Well, Chris, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you breaking down, the automating of social media, the collaboration within the communities for SMBs. I think this was a great conversation. I really appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great to have you.